Hey babes, welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you are new. Thank you so much for clicking on this episode today. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Brandy. I am the host of the Be Real Babe show, a spin-off of the Be Real Babe podcast. And today, you guys, it is Wednesday. We've made it halfway through the week. It is hump day if you're a corporate girly like myself. And that means it's time for some internet insanity. And today's focus and topic is going to be P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, Diddy Love, Brother Love, whatever the fuck you want to call him, Sean Combs' case. I wanted to talk about it, even though there's so many amazing creators out there that have done amazing reporting on this episode, on this whole lawsuit and all that. At the same time, this is something I've been talking about on the podcast. It's something I've talked about on this YouTube channel before as well. So I thought I could do a quick update. Well, not a quick update. I thought we'll just start at Cole's notes for the very beginning. So if you're interested in listening to my take and what I found on the beginning of the Diddy trial, stick around and we'll jump right in. Okay, babes, as mentioned, now I have been talking about Hollyweird on the podcast for a couple years now, and the absolute disgust I have with how they've treated kids, women, men. It doesn't really matter how they've just treated people in their power position, and Diddy is no different. In the podcast, I had an episode, I think it was one of the last What in the Actual Internet, which bred this series of internet insanity, was about Diddy and all the allegations against him before the trial started. And I did mention that I was going to follow up, but you guys, I am just blown away at how big this has gotten, how many more lawsuits are coming in, how much more disgusting details now that this is all in court. It's actually very overwhelming, and I am not equipped and I don't know enough. But I know that a lot of people out there sometimes don't have time for those 1 or 2 hour podcasts that are catching up. If you do, I highly suggest going to people like Rotten Mango. She does an amazing job at this long documentary style work, because she's actually there with her reporter. So it does in depth of this, and I definitely recommend you listening to her. But if you're looking for a quick episode and catch up on the first 10 days, I thought I could bring that to you, and also painting kind of a picture of who the jury is, and as well as the defense lawyers. And then in the next episode, we'll do a little bit more of the testimonials and what was happening in court. Remember, this is a federal case, so there's no video, there's no pictures. It's all relying on sketch and on the transcripts. So that's why I said if you go to Rotten Mango, she does an amazing job. And I know there's a lot of creators out there that are doing a good job of breaking it down. But today we're just going to go over the high level. And then, next episode, we'll go over the prosecution team, as well as a little bit more witness testimonies of what's to come. So let's start with the very beginning. And for those that maybe don't know, I don't know how you wouldn't know, but let's just do a sum up of the case, because it's really important to remember that when I've come through all of this research, a lot of other lawyers are echoing, saying that we have to keep in mind that even though all of these things are disgusting, that the jury has to look at the charges that he's being charged with. And even if you are discussing what he's done, you have to look and see, does that relate to the charges that they're trying to get him with? So preface with that. Can think he's disgusting, but also as a jury, they need to look into, is this though what he's being charged with? Sean Diddy Combs is facing federal charges of racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and transportation to engage in prostitution. On May 5th, the former rapper's trial started with jury selection. He has been held without bail since September 2024. 7 months before his arrest, 2 of his homes had been raided by federal investigators. Prosecutors say Combs used the resources of his music empire to create a criminal enterprise whose members and associates engaged in an attempt to engage in, among other crimes, sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and other obstruction of justice. His defense team said in court that the actions of their client were obscene and may amount to domestic violence, but did not rise to the level of orchestrated criminal enterprise that the prosecution has described. So that is what the jury is going to have to listen to the defense describing, being like, hey, it's gross and it's domestic violence, but is it orchestrated criminal enterprise that the prosecution has described? And as much as I will have my personal opinions, just on my personal opinions only, but Diddy is, in the eyes of the court of law and in the Americas, in the US, innocent until proven guilty. So I'm sitting back, and my opinions are strictly my opinions. That's doesn't really matter, just a Canadian sitting back and watching. But he is reminded that he's innocent, and this is the jury's job to figure out, not mine. Just reporting on it because I've been talking about this for a long time, and I can't believe this is actually coming to court as we speak. But what are we going to see? Who knows? Okay, so carry on. Sean Diddy Combs' trial started with jury selection. So this is May 5th, 2025. The federal sex trafficking trial against Combs started in New York City. The jury selection was briefly paused when Diddy claimed he was a little nervous and needed a bathroom break. There were 36 potential jurors questioned by the judge regarding their answers on a questionnaire. Also, allegedly, his telling the judge, saying, "I'm sorry, judge, I'm a little nervous today," was the first thing that he had said in court the whole entire time. So I guess they kind of wanted to continue on, but they let him have a little break. We'll leave it at that. The potential jurors were given a brief description of the charges against Combs, saying that he had pled not guilty and was presumed innocent. By the end of the day, the jury pool was half the size it was, since some were excluded for personal reasons. Carrying on to May 7th, 2025. Wednesday marked the third day of jury selection in Combs' case. On Tuesday, the prosecution and defense had secured 35 qualified potential jurors, but Judge Arun Subramanian said that he wants at least 45. Right before 1 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday, the teams met that threshold. From that pool, 12 jurors and 6 alternatives were chosen. Lawyers questioned potential jurors on several topics, including their feelings on sexual abuse, knowledge of Combs' case, and whether they've seen the surveillance video of Combs allegedly dragging ex-girlfriend Cassandra Cassie Ventura. At least one juror was taken out Tuesday after saying they had seen the surveillance video. Several potential jurors were also removed from the pool after watching news footage of the case. Okay, so now the jurors are selected, and who are they? Who are the jurors? This is going to be a big one. This is a huge profile case, so who are the jurors of this case? So what do we know about the 12 jurors who will decide Diddy's fate? The jury of 8 men and 4 women in the federal sex trafficking trial represent a diverse swath of New York City area from various professions. A jury of 12 everyday New Yorkers, 8 men and 4 women, were seated Monday in the federal sex trafficking trial of Sean Diddy Combs, paving the way for the opening statements in the proceedings expected to last at least 8 weeks. The group whittled down from a pool of 45 qualified prospective jurors after questioning began last week. Those selected range from ages 30 to 74 and live in diverse New York City neighborhoods across Manhattan and the Bronx, as well as neighboring Westchester County. They also come from various professions: an investment analyst, a physician assistant, a massage therapist, and a deli clerk. Celebrity status as an entrepreneur and rap mogul with a prolific three-decade career has been unavoidable in a trial that has been drawn intense coverage following his arrest in September. The jurors were also asked about their hobbies, musical tastes, with some younger jurors in their 30s and 40s saying they've listened to hip-hop and R&B, genres that closely associate with Combs. In addition, several of the jurors said that they were already familiar with key piece of evidence of the trial, the video of Combs assaulting the singer Cassandra Cassie Ventura, his ex-girlfriend, in Los Angeles hotel hallway in 2016. Ultimately, the group will be tasked with deciding whether guilty of 5 criminal counts: 1 count of racketeering conspiracy, 2 counts of sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. He has pled not guilty. Here's what we know about the 12 jurors. So I'll just go through these quickly. So juror number 2 is a 69-year-old male from Manhattan who works as an actor and massage therapist. Juror number 5, a 31-year-old male from Manhattan who works as an investment analyst. Juror 25, a 51-year-old male from Manhattan who has a PhD in molecular biology and neuroscience. Juror 28, a 30-year-old female from the Bronx working as a deli clerk. Juror 55, a 42-year-old female from Manhattan who is an aide in a nursing home. Juror number 58, a 51-year-old female from the Bronx who works in communication at a correctional facility. Juror 75, a 68-year-old male who is from Westchester County who is retired from a bank. Juror 116, a 68-year-old male from Westchester County who is retired from working at a telecommunications company. Juror 160 is a 43-year-old female from Westchester County who works as a physician assistant. Juror 184, a 39-year-old female from the Bronx who is a social worker. Juror 201 is a 67-year-old male from Westchester County who works as a logistic analyst. And finally, 217, a 74-year-old female from Manhattan who works as a treatment coordinator. So it looks like all of these are kind of, different age range. It sounds like their music are kind of, different tastes, but it's going to be almost impossible. They have a variety of different jobs along here, different careers. None of them that looks like it belongs in the music industry or anything like that. So I think they'd be able to come at it as very, like everyday people. So that's the jury. So interesting to see what they're going to have to go through. I feel for them. I've been called on jury duty once and the trial was canceled, so I never got to see it. I have no idea what it's even about, but I can imagine it's not easy, but I know that a lot of people, myself included, take that very seriously. So I can imagine being in a high profile case like this. So in continuing on the time of events, there was one part here that came up through the timeline here. So Diddy not treated differently because of race by prosecutors, judge rules. So on May 9th, 2025, Subramanian ruled that the prosecutors who brought charges against Combs have not treated him differently due to his race. This was in response to requests from the defense to dismiss some of Combs' charges 3 days before opening statements. The judge also refused to suppress evidence in Combs' case in separate written opinion. The lawyers had claimed that the prosecution was unprecedented because most disturbingly, no white person has ever been targeted of a remotely similar prosecution. It's the severity of what Combs allegedly did, not his race, that mattered, the judge wrote. He also noted that Combs' lawyer had alleged that the government sought to humiliate him through news releases, the way the search warrants were executed, the refusal to let him surrender, and alleged leaks to the media. The judge wrote, however, Combs doesn't point to any evidence that racial bias played a role in the government's actions, that the prosecution team was responsible for any leaks to the press, or that the way Combs' homes were searched bespeaks a discriminatory purpose. So the judge is saying, no, not having that. Okay, so before we go any further in the timeline, I thought let's take a second also and highlight the lawyers in this case and just give a little bit each about them. So we'll start with that and then we'll go to one of the testimonies and then we'll wrap it up for this week. That was the first 7 days, the first week. And then, like I said, next episode we'll go into the prosecution a little bit more and some of the more of the witnesses that have spoken so far in court. Like I said, this is all out so you can go and see it. A little bit late to the party, but I like to just wait a little bit and gather my information. So we'll start with the first lawyer here. So that's Mark Agnifilo. Experienced defense attorney Mark Agnifilo is leading Combs' defense team, bringing with him experience defending NXIVM leader Keith Raniere, Farmer Bro Martin Shkreli, and Goldman Sachs banker Roger Ng. So I've talked about Keith Raniere before on the podcast. Go way back to our cult section. That's why I thought it was super interesting. That's actually why I flagged to want to talk about this. I was like, oh goodness, that's a good idea to talk about the people that are on his case. So Raniere was convicted for creating what prosecutors described a sex cult in which female members were branded with his initials and kept in line through blackmail, sentenced to 120 years in prison. Shkreli was sentenced to 7 years in person for security fraud and conspiracy, while Ng was sentenced to 10 years in person for his alleged role in money laundering and bribery scheme, including paying more than $1.6 billion in bridges to dozens of government officials. Agnifilo also has expertise working as a federal and state prosecutor and boasts having tried 200 cases over his 3-decade legal career. Agnifilo is also one half of the legal power couple of his wife, Karen Friedman Agnifilo, a former prosecutor who investigated the Trump Organization while with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. Since leaving government service, her most high-profile case has been Luigi Mangione, the 27-year-old accused of gunning down United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson last year. So, lead lawyer. Next, we have Tenny Garagos. I'm terrible at this. Is one thing I'm not good at his names, y'all. I need to. That's one of my things that I could never do is work at Starbucks because I'm terrible at names. And then all of a sudden, here we are. So I apologize to everyone and forever. I'm terrible at names. It's just the way it is. Okay. Tenny Garagos is a founding partner at New York-based law firm Agnifilo and Trotter, and also defended Raniere and Shkreli. She graduated from Loyola Law School in Los Angeles in 2016. Garagos is also the daughter of famed defense attorney Mark Garagos, whose clients include Hunter Biden, Chris Brown, and Michael Jackson. While Mark Gregos is not representative of Combs, his appearance in court during jury selection sparked criticism from prosecutors due to his past public statements about the case on his podcast. Federal prosecutors asked the judge to remind Mark Gregos about court policies that forbid statements outside the court that could interfere with a fair trial. He's also involved in a simultaneously high-profile case arguing for the release of Eric and Lau Menendez 35 years after the pair was convicted of killing their parents. Super big high-profile cases for both of these lawyers, hey? That's crazy. Again, sorry for butchering all the names. Alexandra Shapiro. Alexander Shapiro brings over 30 years of appellate experience to Combs' legal team, having served as the Deputy Chief of Appeals for the United States Attorney's Office in Manhattan and Attorney Advisor in the Office of Legal Counsel in the U.S. Department of Justice. She represents Sam Bankman-Fried in the pending appeal of his criminal conviction and scored a series of legal victories at the United States Supreme Court. She also clerked for the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, a job she shares with the judge overseeing Combs' case, though the two did not overlap. Brian Steele. Atlanta-based attorney Brian Steele joined Combs' legal team last month after gaining national attention defending young rapper Young Thug. After the longest criminal trial in Georgia history, Young Thug pleaded guilty to gun, drug, and gang charges but was spared a lengthy prison sentence. Steele was briefly sent to jail during the trial after the judge overseeing the case held him in contempt for refusing to provide the judge information about what he learned of meeting between prosecutors, a witness, and the judge himself. The contempt ruling was overturned. Okay, the other big one would be Linda Morano. Linda Morano is a high-profile legal consultant who joined Combs' legal case to help with jury selection. Her law firm website describes her as an expert on anti-Muslim bias. She was on the legal team that secured acquittal for Noor Salman, the wife of Pulse nightclub shooter who was accused of lying to the FBI after helping her husband. Morano is no stranger to celebrity trials, having worked on the legal team defending American actor Wesley Snipes in the criminal trial for failing to file tax returns. Snipe was convicted of 3 misdemeanor charges, but acquitted on most of the serious felony charges. There's also 3 more attorneys. Xavier Donaldson, a New York-based criminal defense attorney, joined Combs' legal team on the eve of the trial. He has nearly 3 decades of criminal defense experience and worked for former prosecutor in the Bronx. Ana Estevao is a partner of the New York law firm Harris a law firm in New York. She also graduated from New York University of Law and briefly worked as a federal defender in California, according to her LinkedIn profile. Last one is Jason Driscoll, is an associate of Shapiro's law firm and one of the most junior members of Combs' defense team. He graduated from New York University School of Law and completed 2 deferral clerkships. So that is the legal team, the defense team there. So going over that, we went over the jurors, very interesting, very high profile case for all these individuals, from jurors to the defense team. And like I said, next one, we'll go over the prosecution and who's on that team. And then we'll go over more of the witness statements here, but we'll end with one that was very interesting in the moment when this individual came to light in the mainstream. I think most people thought this person was crazy, and now here we are how many years later, and there's testifying in court. So male stripper testifies Diddy paid him to have sex with Cassie. So this was May 12th, 2025. Opening statements started on Monday. Prosecutors played the hotel video, originally obtained by CNN, that allegedly showed Combs beating his ex-partner Ventura. Israel Flores, who is a now police officer, was a security guard during the incident. He allegedly took video and photos of the damage to the hotel and was approached by Combs. According to Flores, tried to hand him a stack of money, telling him that he didn't see anything. Flores testified that he told Combs, "I don't want your money, just go back into your room." Daniel Phillip, a male stripper, also testified Monday, saying that the rapper had paid him to have sex with Ventura while Combs watched. Phillip said that this started in 2012 and Combs would provide instructions each time. He said on one occasion, "You need to rub more baby oil on each other. You don't have enough on." Phillip also claimed that he saw Combs assault Ventura in her apartment. I saw a liquor bottle fly across the room and hit the wall. Then Mr. Combs grabbed Cassie by her hair and started dragging her. Mr. Combs pulled her into the bedroom. It sounded like he was slapping her, Philip claimed during the trial. So heavy, you guys. I absolutely, like, parts of you know, I think we know, but you don't know. And now that everything's coming out in court, it's like there also has to be all this evidence. It's just, next week we'll get into Cassie's testimony and what she went through and a little bit more of the other ones. And it's absolutely vile. It's disgusting. I know I said last one, I was going to try and keep it shorter. I did say one topic. This is one topic. It's just a big one. And I really wanted to start painting the picture of, okay, how did this start? What was the jury selection like? What were the juries like? Who did they select? You know, who's representing Diddy? What is their experience like? And the starting days of the testimonies, what does that look like? And it's going to pause here. Next week, I'll come back with a little bit more. And yeah, you guys let me know what you think. Again, he is obviously innocent until proven guilty. But even at the end of the day, I think it's fair to say that no one's denying that he did stuff. It's just, are they able to get him on such big charges federally is the conversation to be had. I think it's easy and fair to say that he was disgusting. All of this stuff was disgusting, and I don't think it was consensual. I think it's apparent that a lot of this was abuse and grooming, from my opinion. But are they going to be able to prove that in the court of law? That's just my opinion. You guys let me know in the comment sections what you think. Thank you guys so much for listening. I hope that you liked the way I set it up this week. I tried something new this week, and it's working out so much better. Enjoying doing it. It's just a little bit more editing for me in the post show, but it's so much better. I haven't been kicked off Riverside this week, so yay, hallelujah. I hope you guys are enjoying your week. You're halfway through. Don't forget that the podcast does air on Friday, so join me on Spotify, Apple, and Rumble for the Be Real Babe podcast. And then again on Monday, you'll see me with Keeping Up with Canada on YouTube only. And then I'm back again. Like I said, we'll talk more about the Diddy trial next week as well. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your week. And until the next episode, bye.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Until next time, bye.